You're brushing your teeth at 11 at night, half asleep, and out of nowhere, your brain serves up that thing you said in 7th grade. The wrong name. The bad joke. The moment you tripped in front of the whole cafeteria, your face heats up, your shoulders curl, you whisper stop into the mirror like it might actually listen. It doesn't. And there's a very specific reason it doesn't. This is for the people who feel everything twice, once when it happens, and again on a loop at 3 in the morning. If your brain refuses to let go of one cringe moment from 15 years ago while completely forgetting where you put your keys yesterday, there's a reason. It has nothing to do with being weak, broken, or, as people love to say, too sensitive. It's actually a signal that your mind is built to track something most people miss. By the end of this, you'll understand what your brain is really doing in those moments and why the people who remember the most cringe are the ones with the most going on underneath. Here's the first thing nobody tells you. Your brain doesn't store the time you said you to the waiter in the same drawer as your shopping list. It files it closer to almost stepped on a snake. That's not just a figure of speech. The amygdala, the tiny almond-shaped alarm near the center of your head, tends to react to social mistakes with something like the alarm it uses for physical danger. For most of human history, being humiliated in front of your tribe wasn't just awkward, it was dangerous. Get pushed out of the group, and the cold or the wolves did the rest. So the nervous system learned to bookmark social wounds in big red ink, with a note that says, "Do not delete." That bookmark is exactly what fires when you're brushing your teeth. Your brain isn't bullying you. It's trying to keep you safe with software that was last updated somewhere back in the Pleistocene. And if you're a deep thinker, that software tends to run hotter than average, which leads straight to the next reason. Two people can live through the exact same awkward moment, and one walks away in 5 seconds while the other carries it for a decade. Same event, different recording. The reason is bandwidth. Highly aware, deeply feeling people take in more social signal per second, the small flick of someone's eyes, the half-second pause before they answered, the way the room went quiet for one beat too long. While everyone else captured the moment in standard definition, you captured it in 4K, with audio, with subtext, with weather. That higher resolution is a gift in conversation. It's brutal in memory. Because when your brain stores a humiliation, it doesn't just store what happened. It stores everything you noticed about it. The way someone's smile tightened, the way your own voice sounded strange in your ears. Most people can't access those details years later. You can replay them like a director's cut. And that's why your cringe library is bigger than theirs. Not because you're worse at letting go, but because you saw more to remember. Cornell researchers ran a small, brutal study in the late 90s. They had a student walk into a room of strangers wearing an embarrassing t-shirt, a face nobody would willingly wear in public. After, they asked the student to guess how many people in the room had noticed. The student guessed about half. The actual number was closer to 1 in 5. Psychologists called it the spotlight effect, and your brain runs it on you every single day. When you replay the moment you mispronounced a word in the meeting, you are starring in a movie where every camera is pointed at your face. In reality, most of the people in that meeting were thinking about lunch. They didn't catalog your slip up, they didn't even encode it. Their brains threw it out before they got to the parking lot. The cringe you carry is almost always heavier than the cringe anyone else remembers. Not because they're kinder, because they were never really looking at you in the first place. There's a reason your worst memories don't ambush you in the middle of a workday. They wait. They wait until your hands are busy with something small, folding laundry, washing a glass, lying in the dark, and your conscious mind finally goes quiet. That quiet has a name in neuroscience. It's called the default mode network, and it switches on the moment you stop pointing your attention outward. The default mode is where the brain does its housekeeping. It pulls files, runs simulations, replays conversations, rehearses what you might say next time. A private screening room. And the films it picks aren't random. It reaches for the moments it has flagged as still unresolved, the ones it hasn't made peace with yet. So when that one memory arrives at 11 at night, your brain is just doing maintenance, reopening an unfinished file, looking for an ending you never gave it. The catch is that replaying it never provides one, which is the trap we'll get to in a minute. Now, for the part nobody tells you, These memories aren't punishment, they're calibration. Picture an old sailor marking a new rock on his map after the hull scrapes it in the dark. He never wants to hit it twice. Every time your brain replays the moment you waved back at someone who wasn't waving at you, it's marking that rock. Updating the map of how people actually work. Here's what I expected, here's what happened, here's the gap, patch it. It's one of the most sophisticated learning systems in nature. People with no social memory don't grow into smoother adults. They grow into the ones who keep scraping the same rock decade after decade. The price of a brain that learns from social mistakes is that it has to keep showing you the mistakes. So that wince over something from 10 years ago isn't a malfunction, it's the map being redrawn. And the people who never replay anything usually aren't free. They're just sailing with a map full of rocks they never marked. There is, though, a real cost to replaying these memories on a tight loop. The brain you're using right now is a use it or lose it organ. Every time a neural pathway fires, it gets a little thicker, a little faster, a little easier to find next time. That's how a piano scale becomes muscle memory. It's also how a single embarrassing memory becomes a highway. The first time it came up, maybe it was a dirt path. By the 100th replay, your brain has paved it, painted the lines, and put up signs pointing to the exit, which means that quiet moment at the sink, your brain doesn't go looking for that memory anymore. It defaults to it. The loop has trained the loop. This is the difference between learning from a mistake and rehearsing one. Learning closes a chapter. Rehearsing reopens it on a schedule, and the way out is not what most people think. It is not trying harder to forget. Trying to forget is just another lap on the highway. So if you can't think your way out, what works? The honest answer is something almost embarrassingly simple, which is why most people skip it. You interrupt the loop in the body before you try to handle it in the mind. When that memory hits, your shoulders rise, your jaw locks, your breath gets shallow at the top of the lungs. Those three things are the loop's fuel. Drop your shoulders, unclench your jaw, take one slow breath all the way to the bottom of your ribs. Then say one sentence out loud, not to argue with the memory. Just to name it, something like, that was 12 years ago, I was 19, and I lived. The point is not to win the argument. The point is to remind your nervous system that the room you're standing in right now is safe. Embarrassment lives in the body before it lives in the story. If you cool the body first, the story loses heat. The memory doesn't disappear, it just stops running you. Here's the reframe that took me years to land on. The people walking around with no embarrassing memories on file are not the winners. They are usually the people who never noticed what they were doing in the room. They didn't catch the moment they stepped on someone else's sentence. They didn't see the look. They didn't update. You did. The size of your cringe library is almost line for line. The size of your capacity for empathy. It is the visible cost of being someone who pays attention. Someone who actually cares whether the person across from them felt heard. People with low social memory don't have a quieter mind because they figured something out. They have a quieter mind because the data never got stored. You wouldn't trade places with them. You only think you would. The fact that you are still thinking 15 years later about whether that comment landed badly, that is exactly the part of you, the people who love you, love. There's one last thing. You probably owe yourself an apology you've never made. Somewhere along the way, you started treating your own memory like a defect you called yourself, someone who can't let go, someone dramatic, stuck, too much in their own head. None of that was ever true. You're someone whose brain registered what happened, cared how it landed, and refused to file it as nothing. That's not the system failing. That's the system running at full strength. The work was never to become someone who forgets. It's to hold the memory the way you'd hold an old photograph, to look at it, even smile at it without your hands shaking. To let it play like a song drifting in from another room, there, but no longer in charge of you. You don't need a quieter mind. You need a kinder hand on the loud one you already have. And that, more than any technique, is what finally turns the volume down on every cringe memory you've ever filed. 3 things to take with you. 1, your brain stores embarrassment next to danger because for most of human history, the two were almost the same thing. 2, the cringe you carry is heavier than the cringe anyone else remembers. The spotlight you feel is mostly your own. 3. Your memory isn't broken. It's the receipt for a life lived with attention, empathy, and care about how you land in other people's rooms. If a specific memory started playing in your head while you watched this, tell me in the comments how old you were when it happened. You'll see you're far from the only one still carrying it. And if you notice more than the room asks you to subscribe, you're already home.